here we are ready to start Pax Baltica. And I always flirt with the idea of walking around the table and having the blocks set up, you know, as you would in a real game, but I just don't think I'm comfortable enough with being on both sides. All right, so we start in the autumn of 1700, and we open things up with an action die roll. The Swedes get an event. The Russians are going to get 4 actions. Make sure that's right, that you get no actions on the event. I know I told you that. Yeah, okay. So for the event, another blue die. And I have to mark these. This is going to be my way of remembering things. Put the coalition die roll here, the Swedish die roll here, just in case I have to walk away at times. And the event just goes on the normal event table. I get a 6, choosing major nation on the national politics. Okay, that's going to be Sweden. Special event, attempt to activate one of your allies with a +1 on the die roll. Okay. Well, this is a tough call. I gotta look over my allies. Obviously, either the Ottomans or Ukraine appear to be the most potent options here. What's not clear is the Ukraine gets an opportunity, as does the Ottomans. Yeah, so those are the two that I would be looking at. Now, I'm pretty sure the Ukraine on its own isn't as big a threat as the Ottomans would be. But let me think about this a little bit and figure out which one I want to throw in. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. There are no other modifiers in play here. We don't have the Charles the 12th in there. We don't have him showing up there. Let me make the roll. If I get a 5 or a 6, I'll think about which one I want. Because those are the only countries worth trying to pull into this. I don't know how many other allies I got anyway. Got Rook. There's yeah, the Ukrainian is just one piece. That's not going to do me much good. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Ottomans. Okay, well, I didn't get it. Now that means that the coalition is going to get to have 4 activations. 4 spaces that I have blocks in. Now that's not necessary for activations. These 2 I'm going to trigger sieges with. That's fine. The other one, I could move this guy 1, 2, 3 if he's fast enough. He's not. So I could use 2 activations to get him into here and this into here. You might worry about the supply situation here. I've got only a 2 supply, but I got 2 of these supply depots, and these 2 are regiments. So we're safe there. My problem is we don't need that many armies to besiege it. I would like to push forward and take Nevia or whatever. However, there may be other things that I want to do more. Oh, I could actually send one of my detachments there, or regiments. Let's see. Recon, not interested. I could do a national politics. but I can only do this once per year per nation. Now that means I could still fire off 2 national politics, one for Saxony and one for the Russians, and that might make the most sense. Let's do at least one of them. So that means we can't get to where we want to, but that's okay. All right. So 1 national politics, let's do the Russian one. 2, each block in a non-national territory loses a step. Well, that kind of sucked. That was an error to do. And now we got to deal with these stupid rotatings. Okay. Well, we're going to take a replacement then. And we want one of our armies to be replaced. This guy's the better army, the Peter army. Oh, these are actually a pretty good army. So we'll give him a step as one of his, as the second activation, and then we'll do the 2 sieges. Now, we're running through the sequence of play. There are no battles, but there are sieges which we take into account during the siege phase. Now for that, let's take a look at this one. So these are C1s, I believe. The B2 gets to swing first. And that's going to be 4 dice. Looking for 2s, 1s and 2s. We got 1 hit on the garrison. Needs 3 more hits. Now, I'm going to do the C2 next, but it can't wipe out the garrison before the garrison gets to shoot back. We did not wipe out the garrison. It gets to fire back. It's 4. Could just use the same dice. That's C1. It did 1 hit. I get to choose where I'm going to take the hit. Well, a C2 is definitely not as good as a C1. I'm going to take it on them. And the siege was not completed there. Over here, these don't count because they're regiments. So we have basically B's at 5, and we have 7 dice. Green dice. White here. Lots of reds and whites because, or reds and blues, because a lot of games use those color spans. So 7 dice at 2. Right? Oh, no, can't do that. It's 7 dice, but 3 of them are 2, and 4 of them are at 3. Okay. These 2 different shades, types of green dice. So the 4 are 3s. I got plenty of hits. This happened before the garrison gets to attack. So a territory falls, and this bag's open. And a garrison is placed here. And that is 4 hits on Sweden's replacement points to take that territory from them. And look, we're already winning some points here. There's all my actions, of course. I did the siege, forage. Let's take a look at everybody's forage, because we could have problems here. I don't believe you have to worry about forage when at sea. I'll look that up. 3 blocks here, 4 blocks here, that's fine. 3 blocks, 2 blocks. Here's the problem. It's only a 2-block space, but remember I got the 2 regiments that are supplied by the armies. Let me just check the sea supply, but otherwise we're ready to push into the winter game turn. And indeed, you're not subject to forage when you're at sea. If you were, I'm assuming it would be a terrible thing, like it would be a 0 forage or whatever. And, you can see it's a fairly fast playing. There are a lot of turns. You got 21 years, 21 and a half years, basically, at 4 years each. So it's 86 turns in total. That sounds horrible, right? 86 turns, man. But they're very fast playing, and if you compare it to, especially if you compare it to the other games that have huge amounts of turns, like Empires in Arms has like 60 turns, and you're thinking, geez. And same thing with the EU, it's in the 60 range. Thinking, wow, that's a huge sounding game. It's not a short game, but it's so fast playing that those 60 turns, or 80 turns in this case or whatever, are going to go by at a reasonable pace, and it looks like you can get this in a long sitting according to what they're talking about. I, of course, play a turn and I'll go downstairs, make some tea or whatever. So it's gonna probably take me quite a while to get through it, but not a huge, it's not a huge commitment. Okay, so here we are on the winter 1700, and we roll the action thingy again. In my sequence of play, even when there's not much. All right, so we got a 3 and a 2 this time. I can use these to keep track. That means the Swedes are going to have to go first, and I'm only going to have 3 actions. Now, we've already lost this territory. We got to make some thoughts. I don't know what to do. I have a big naval force here, which I'd probably like to get into play somewhere. What's not clear in the rules, and I hate having to do this, I had to dig into the extended example of play, and luckily, right at the beginning of the game, they have these fleets at sea here. What's not clear from the rules themselves is whether or not you can move fleets with units on board them. Fleet movement doesn't cover that. I don't think ground movement covers that. Now it does talk about fleets and non-transported units can't be part of the same movement group, but that kind of implies that they can. But there's no clear statement of how naval transport's handled. I really kind of dislike when games, and I think the playbooks and their extended examples of play have led to way too much leniency here from the game company's point of view. When games decide, we don't have to write the rules explicitly. The examples will cover it. I'm a person who notoriously doesn't like reading those things. If there's going to be an example, I don't mind if it's put right into the rules. But I would prefer the rules just be clear and specific and parsimonious as well. These rules aren't too long and difficult to read. Unfortunately, they appear not to be terribly complete either. Anyway, it turns out, yeah, I can move this fleet. There's no real... and carry the blocks with it, which one would think you could do. So now there come a couple of questions. Well, one of the things is I control this, which means I can probably go slam those Saxon units there. And that probably is one of my 3 actions. Well, actually 2 of them. Because, and here's the thing. So the blocks, the ground units, their entire movement is taken up by loading or unloading. However, the example, and again, there's no rule to cover this, no that I can find. The example says, oh, we take these fleets and we move to here. Then we take the units in them and unload them from the Gulf of Finland to there. You know, I would not have assumed that I can both unload, that I can both sail and unload. I just wouldn't have assumed that. And again, how much more of the rules are hidden in the playbook in terms of, in the example of play, because they're not spelled out terribly well. I would much rather see the rules be clear, concise, and correct than, yeah, you know, they'll figure this out, and if they won't, well, they can read the example of play and see it. I consider the example of play to be completely something that's there. I'm not even sure I consider it to have any value at all in general. And the fact that I had to dig into it is, to me, a sign of poorly written rules. In general, they seem to get the point across pretty quickly and effectively, although I did have some other questions that came up. Anyway, still don't know quite what I'm going to do, but I think it's going to be this. So I'll sail out here, 1, 2, 3. I have 6 movements, so I can do that. Second one, I'm going to land here in Livland. Those are my boats. Can I fit there? I've got an army and 2 regiments, and the regiments are all supplied, so I definitely can fit there. Don't terribly want to give this up because the Russians are going to go there. So that's 2 of my actions, and those things can't move again. What do I got here? I got a couple of regiments here. I took some losses, didn't I? No, that was the Russians. So I'm going to spend my last movement to shift forces here. Now, what you've seen is all the blocks moving together. As far as I can see, you can split them up. It's just one area movement. One area's movement gets triggered. Again, maybe that's contradicted, although I don't see how it could be, in the examples of play. If the examples of play only show situations where one group of blocks moves to a single location, that still doesn't provide enough of a contradiction to the concept that you can split them and send them hairy-scary all over the place. All right, so that was my 3 actions for the Swedes. Now we get 2 actions for the coalition. These guys are pinned and can't leave, which maybe I want to fight a bigger battle there. I'm not sure. I did one. Yeah, so now here I've got to try to remember who did political actions, who fired off political actions on their own. And I think I did one with the Russians. But I'm not sure because we got losses here. That could have been from the siege. These guys, yeah, these guys took all the losses. So yeah, so you got to kind of try to remember state from the previous turns and everything, which is fine if you're playing it straight through. But if you take breaks like I do, it's going to be painful. If you take more reasonable breaks, like, hey, we're playing the Grand Campaign, let's quit for the day. We've played for 4 hours, you know, and we'll come back to it. You're going to have to take some copious notes to remember between things. Now me, I'm just going to rely on my memory, and I'll get things wrong, but that's the nature of a game which doesn't provide, you know, sufficient resources to keep track of the information you need between turns, right? I'm going to use one of my actions to improve one of my army units. They didn't all take hits, I guess. I will improve this one. Since there's a, there's a 3 supply number there. Shit, that's not. I got 2 armies already here. Maybe I can't do this. Who did I just improve? This one, I think. Okay, let me think. Because what I'd like to do is send 1 army up here to Nyen and attack that. But I only have room for 1 more army here. Now, if I win the battle, I can get everything. I could disperse after the battle. That sounds not unreasonable. Does it matter that I leave this open, though? I don't know. I can't see. It's a 3-point port garrison. That probably isn't going to get sieged. I would like to win this battle that the Swedes just went into. But I think my answer is 1, 2. Move these here. Now I'm overstacked, but that's okay. Oh, did I spend a point? It's really hard to read little blocks. Okay, so we'll improve this army as well. And then this guy is going to go here, and he's going to launch a siege. Now I've got to remember he's doing a siege as well. I can do that because the only rough terrain's through here. Okay. So now we fight the actual battle and take these guys out of here. The Swedes are all A's. Got to be careful to keep your blocks aligned properly, because if they tilt or something, you've changed the strength points. It's not as bad with blocks as when you're doing it with the same kind of strength representation with combat units, with combat counters, with chits. Okay, so, and now things are tilted, so it's harder to read them. Again, the problem with the block technology. It's not the fog of war that I hate. It's the way the blocks represent things. I kind of like fog of war, at least in concept, is something pleasing to me. But okay, so what do we got here? So we have 4 at 3 and 5 at 2. 4 at 3 and 5 at 2. These are all A ranked, so they all get to fire first. It's buckets of dice, hard to hold a bunch of dice, especially when they're huge like the ones that come with the game. Okay, I said 4 at 3. So that's 3, 4, 5 hits. Now we go to the biggest unit. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is pretty crappy. And 5. Take another Russian hit. All right, now we're on Bs. All the As have fired. So here are the Bs. So B2, B2, that's 5 at B2, 3 at B3. So that's 5 and 3. Okay, we got to try to remember. B2s, none of them hit a B3. A single B3 hit, that's going to hit the largest block here. Okay, that's the Bs have gone. Now the Cs get to go. We have 2, 3 at 2. And yeah, I hate calculating this out. I understand the cleverness of being able to represent, so many different types of units and everything, but it does create a mental mechanical problem in terms of Yeah, I gotta count this. So I got 3 at C2 and 2 at C1. And then I gotta keep cross-referencing and seeing what I have. You know, it's so much more work than a CRT would be. Even a clever CRT like the OCS one. But it's easier to describe. So the rules or overhead becomes less. So I don't think I hit it all with those. That's the first round of combat. Now somewhere I have to use another die to keep track that there's 3 rounds of combat that have gone, that are underway. Because if nobody clears out in time, we get to keep fighting. Well, the Swedes look like they're doing okay. Oh, we got to remember where people came from too. Russians came from here, Swedes came from here. The Swedes are the attackers because the Saxons were here first. And I hope we didn't get that event that prevents units from fighting together. We did screw up. Those Russian units shouldn't have been able to fire. I'll give the Swedes their attack back. But they also shouldn't have been hurt, because they came in later in the battle. They came in as reserves after the initial attack. Whoops. So, how many hits did we take here? We took 1, 2, I think here, and I'll take them in these instead. All right, so we fixed that situation. More or less, you know, can't be sure. Because those guys should not have been involved in the battle. Let's get some more dice. Probably too many. All right, so now we've got 4 at 3 and 5 at 2. That's what we had before. And now the Russians are here. That's 5 hits. We have to hit the biggest unit first. 1, 2. We have to search to make sure we're getting the biggest units. 3, 4, 5. I'll take it on a regiment there. Is that right? 5 hits. Okay, so that's the A's. Now we go to the B's. Okay. So we've got 2 at 3 and 3 at 2. Shift dice around so we can roll. 2 at 3, that's 1. 2 hits on the Swedes. We can take this one on our regiment, which is less damage. Okay, that's the B's. Now we go to the C's, and you can see how tedious this combat works. Looks like 2 at 2 and 1 at 1. Now I could be withdrawing with some of these, which might be wise because we're kind of getting our ass kicked, but we want to do more damage. We kind of want to win. It's hard. So I think we got 1 hit, and that's got to go again on Charles's unit. That's the second round of combat. Now we're on the third and final round. Charles gets to attack. All his units get to fight first. What that means is these guys might as well fire back. No reason to withdraw. So now we're at 2 at 3 and 4 at 2. That's 1, 3 hits, and we search for who can take them. 1, 2, and now we have to take a casualty, a real casualty. I'm going to take this unit because it's kind of cheap, kind of crappy. I'll put it here. Wise Menshikov separate. I don't know. Okay. That was not a Russian army that was destroyed, though, so I can't start building my improved Russian armies. I do get to shoot back, though, First, let's do the B's. We actually don't have to separate them out necessarily. That's 1 at 3 and 2 at 2. No hits. And now it looks like 2 at 2. No hits. That was the end of 3 rounds of combat. Who won? Well, neither side's been forced out, so I believe that means that the Swedes have to retreat. I hope we went through a normal movement thing here. So we don't know. We're going to have to take a pee, and we'll be back. Well, I'm glad I looked. Even though the Swedes were the attackers, the coalition was besieging. The siege has been broken. So the Swedes successfully have driven them off. Now these Russians have to retreat into here. The Saxons aren't allowed into Russia, if I recall correctly. So they have to go into Kurland, I guess. They're allowed to go in there. It's a transition territory. And now, where are we? We're at the siege. Over here, where the Russians have 4 at C1, and at the same time, the Swedes have 1 at C1. No hits. The siege will continue. The Swedes won the battle. I could spread out, but there's nowhere really to go. Just looking at that. Now we go back here. Forage, I think we're all good. Kurland has a 3. This has a 2, but I got, knocked blocks over. What the hell? I think these are all 1s. There's an army with a supply, and there's a regiment there, so we're okay. So now what? Now we're going to go to the interface. Ooh. Now, this isn't well placed here either. So this game flow thing, the way this design note is in here and the coloring and placement, just the particular points and fonts and whatever used and attributes like bolding, it doesn't come across as clear as most sequence of plays do, but we'll be hitting this activation and replacement interface. And so I'm going to take the season marker off. I'm going to move this to 1701, and I'll put these here. We got to keep these numbers in case they're 6s for the next turn. All right, let's break for a while. I do not want to do battles on video very often. They're pretty damn tedious. But keep it in mind, every time that I play out battles, they're going to have this fairly tedious set of die rolls going on in them compared to what you see otherwise. Yeah, the first turn was real quick, but once you start getting into these bucket of dice systems and having to roll all over the place, it's beginning to look more like, you know, something like one of the bigger old Avalon Hill classics in terms of the amount of die rolling and paying attention and stuff, or the, for that matter, the old SPI, operational kind of feeling games, even if they're tactical, where you just have so many attacks that you have to make throughout the battle. Here it's actually more difficult for me because I'm bopping back and forth between multiple rounds and everything, and it feels a little bit more like some of the attack and save games and stuff like that. It's worse. It's worse than most bucket of dice games in terms of the complexity introduced by this system. Now, I think the system's got a real cleverness to it in terms of what it can represent with the units, but boy, does it come with a cost. So let's look at the seasonal interface. Now, it's another place where the rules don't spell things out terribly well. The sequence of play is pretty much here, and not everything's presented in a way that shows you what happens in it. So here, let's see. Both players roll for entry of war of their respective allies. So that's going to happen first, I guess. Now, there's no simple, oh, well, you just roll for this ally, that ally. You have to kind of hunt this down, you know, from the chart. So we look for each of the people who might be entering. Saxony's already in the war. Denmark is inactive. It doesn't appear that they have any bonuses or penalties going for them. So on a 6, the Danes come in. Oh, alrighty. Well, that's going to make things even harder on the Swedes. Poland don't have an entry. They're already here. Let's go to the Ottomans. I'm not in Ukraine, so they may come in. They do not. Prussia. So Prussia enters with a -1. Well, until the Swedes start getting beat up, that's not going to happen. The Ukraine does not come in. Hanover. Okay, the Hanoverians are not in yet because Holstein-Gottorp wasn't taken. Now, the problem is Denmark really wants Holstein-Gottorp and can't do a lot. I mean, they have to do everything navally otherwise. So there's a good chance we're going to see Hanover coming in as a Swedish ally very soon. Holstein-Gottorp is already in existence. Great Britain, there aren't more fleet blocks. The coalition hasn't invaded Sweden. Can't come in. Okay. So the Swedes produce their replacement points first. They have 36 points. We lost one for Ingerman. Gotta fix everything that's on map first. Okay, so we stumble through dealing with blocks. Yeah. Clumsily looking to see the fleets are, well, those can't reinforce anyway. These guys look like they're maxed out. These guys are the ones that have been in fights. Let's fix them. There's one. This is full. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we've spent 5. We have 29 left. Now, normally what you'd do is you'd shuffle these suckers and pick one. I never feel comfortable with shuffles that are fairly fast and certainly not of small amounts of pieces. So when there's such a small number of pieces, I always go with a die roll. It's just the way life is for me. So I'm at 29 points. I should get some 10-siders to mark that. And I'll take the top one. Okay, so the first pip of this is going to cost me 4. So now I'm at 25. I probably want the army to grow as big as I can. 2, 4, 6 more. I'm at 19. Now where does this get deployed? According to the deployment limits. So we flip back, and this is absolutely right to do it this way, but It's got to be in Sweden proper. So now I think we're at 19 if I recall correctly, and I'll draw another one. I don't know, there should be 4 there. So I'll just keep rolling dice. I get the top one. And 19. We're at 17. Now this is special. This is the Cerovlax, which will show up here. We definitely want to grow this one. So I was at 17, 16, 15. It's there. We draw another one. $11, 9, 8. Sorry, 9. I'm sorry. 11, 9, 7, 5. We'll build this up to full as well. We'll draw one more. Should we have kept more points for more core? I find it, or more things. Yeah, I find it hard to use more. So wait a minute, we were at, I think we're at 5. Maybe it was 4, I don't know. 4 sounds familiar, but I don't think that's possible. So anyway, I'm at 5, odd even. It's gonna be this top one. 5, 3, 2, 1. I should know what this is. 2, if I know I'm drawing a regiment, we'll draw the regiment. Okay, so this is Friedrich over here at Holstein Gottorp. This one is Södermanland. Starts out somewhere in the main area. Okay, so here I have 2 regiments. I could put an army here without any problem. I could put another army here. And I still have room for my other regiment. I think that's for the best. And why do I have room for so many? These 2 armies and 1 regiment count against the 3. The other 2 units are my supply wagon forces. So I've gathered everything. I've got things ready to chain across and face the Russians. I don't think I want to beat the Russians up too hard, or try to beat the Russians up too hard. Now all the Danes are in the game, but the problem is I've already deployed over here. Maybe it would make more sense to have my deployment over in Skane. Skane. I don't know how that's pronounced. I feel like it's Skane, but that's just my guess. What happens if I put my new units there instead? I can't load up my troops and disembark at the same time, but it'll save me effort. I'm going to put them, there is a port, fuck. Okay, so whatever these were, I know they're all at full strength. They're lost now, they're randomized. Problem with block games. Knock things over, you're screwed. What I don't know is which one was where. But the 2 new armies, I think these guys go here. Does it make more sense to have them at Small Land or at Skane? Well, the question is, what's up with these ports? I think that they are actually only on the sea that they show on. But I don't remember that for sure. That's what I vaguely recall about it. It's into the actual sea zone that the port is adjacent to, as opposed to all the sea zones next to the coastline. What that means is, putting me here means I'm planning on getting into the Kattegat. We don't know how big the Danish Navy is going to be. And we honestly just don't know, I think. Maybe we do. No, we won't know, because however many blocks the Danes produce, we won't know how much of that's Navy. So, but before I place the Swedes, I should actually be placing those Danes. The Danes only mobilize what they can draw out to begin with. With this many blocks, more than 6, I'm going to shuffle them the normal way. They're fairly random there. Yeah, there's still too few for me to trust. Even though I know nothing. We'll draw this one. Now, this is an army. I need navies. So I'm going to take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't have to place it yet. I've spent 10. I do need navies, but I can't rebuild that. I can't build that army up after I draw another piece. And I like armies. Is this a particularly good army? It's not bad. They are the Danes after all. So I've spent 10, 11, 12. I need to build navies. I'll hold off on the next one. Oh, not 12. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, 16, 17, 18. I can't build that last one. And I should have known this. Yeah, I should have known this. I'm not gonna screw up like that. I wasn't gonna get a navy for what I wanted, so I'm gonna spend the extra 2 on this. Let me make sure I got my points right. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16. I thought I had more points than that. I only have 16 points. So this is what I'm going to take. Let's see, is this the special one? So I'm in a kind of ugly position where the Swedes could really kind of go over to Norway and kick my butt. Presumably, they could march into Denmark. Although this unit isn't very strong, I don't know how big it is. I know how big it can be. I know that it can't siege that space because it's only a regiment. If I go into here, I bring the Hanoverians in, which I would rather not do. So I'm going to put my bigger army here at Skillen and my smaller one there in Denmark. Might make sense not to even place the smaller one and just give the Jylland area up. These actually connect by a land connection. Let's put these both here. I think that's probably a little wiser. I'm not sure. But at least I have my harbor. I protect my capability to build boats. Otherwise, I might not get boats. All right. So now the Swedes do exactly what I've done. They put their force here. This gives them a little bit of flexibility in that they can land down here at Vismar or at Goldtrop, or whatever. So that's where I want to go there. Now we do the same kind of drawing over for the Saxons and the Ruskies. Let me look at some of the Saxon pieces, familiarize myself with what they have, a couple armies, a few of these. What's up with these Poles? There's a restriction on when these come in. And that is written up, unfortunately, in the scenario. Not in all this crap. Not in that crap. Where's the scenario? There's the first thing. Okay, so... two Polish regiments. These get added after Swedish-controlled blocks enter Poland. All right. So I'm not going to get any Poles, which is fine. They get produced over in Saxony, so it's no real bonus that they're in there or not. I'll shuffle these up to confuse myself. Not that it makes a bit of difference. And you see, I mean, I kind of know where the two armies are. I think they're here and here. It's very hard when you're the person doing the shuffling. And so if you need to be able to see what your corps are, I know there's, I guess, a tier for this. There may be an explanation of all the different corps as well, because there aren't that many blocks. But still, if you want to viscerally understand what the pieces are, you know, by actually examining them, well, shuffling's going to screw it up. And if you accidentally notice one of them, shuffling's going to screw up your ability to not know what you've got and where it is in the draw pile. And then you're playing this game of trying not to pick the piece you know because you know that piece. And it's just horrible, the whole shuffling in that way. Okay, I've got some problems with some of these, but I have no garrison here, so these points are going to be expensive to build. On the other hand, Saxony is not the cheapest place in the world to build. I think I'm going to let the Swedes come into Poland. Oh, geez. If I don't reinforce these poor guys, they're going to be in trouble. But on the other hand, I could lose Saxony, which would be more problematic. So let's build a new unit. All right. So this cost me 2, 3, 4 of 16. Five, 6, 7 of 16. Nine, 10 of 16. Eleven, 12, 13, 14 of 16. I can't take the odd point on those poor guys. I'll build one more. Hope it's a regiment. They all seem to be. 15, 16 of 16. Now these all have to be placed in Saxony, whether they're Poles or Saxons. Nope, I lied. These units do actually deploy. They deploy using Saxon points, but they deploy in Poland, if they show up. Okay, so the Saxons deploy somewhere in Saxony. Each of these only holds 4. Let's see what my blocks actually look like. There they are. Let's do it like that. Bunch of regiments. Regiments aren't going to siege anything. At least I hope they're regiments. I can't... it's hard to tell because of that italic versus non-italic. But yeah, things that don't have the army, the supply depot marker on them, I assume are regiments, but they aren't always the case. We saw some, for example, the Russian armies don't have them. But now we're to the Russians, who have 32, but what is this, -4 each, I think? So that's like 24 points, if I'm remembering correctly. That may be specified somewhere that's easier to get to. I hate these cardstock maps. Yeah, they're 4 RP each, so I'm 8 down, so it's 32 minus 8. Gotta be careful. 32 minus 8 is 24. All right, let's look at my armies. I probably want to increase my armies first. 22. No, this isn't a regiment. 22. Okay, let me count the other way. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I fucking hate counting if you've never realized that about me. I'm at like 13 out of 24. Now, I've got all of these, and I don't know, this I think is just falling down. Okay. I don't remember what I'm at. 13, I think, out of 24. 14, 15, 16, 17. I don't know how many regiments I have versus regular units. 14, 15, 16, 17. 18, 19. Cossacks are deployed specially. Anywhere in Russia or Ukraine. Okay. We were at 17. Is that after this? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think this is 18, 19, 20, 21. 22, 23, 24, and we end up good. Now, the new deployments have to be Moscow, Yaroslav, or Tula. Which are these three? With the exception of my Cossacks, which I can put anywhere in Russia. Can I fit here? I have 2 extra. I can put them here. That gives me more of a... You want your sets of blocks together, and maybe even over stacking limits, because you can move them before they take their forage penalty, or forage limits, or whatever you want to call them. These guys, Moscow looks like it has the most capability to reach other places quickly. It looks like it, I'm a little closer because of these 2 connections. And that's that. And that puts us into the spring turn here. Since we've gone through most of the mechanisms of the game at this point, I think I'm going to load this up. And it's almost the hour anyway.